anyways, so that's kind of what we're about.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, brother.
Cool, thanks.
Go ahead.
I'm next.
Yep.
Okay, so basically.
Oh, a Doctor Who fan.
Um, so I'm not sure if you guys have used the official WordPress settings API when you're working on your themes or doing a plugin. I've used it a few times for some plugins I've done, but also for setting up some theme options. Basically, the settings API is the official code that you're supposed to use to create your own options panel or to add options to an existing settings page. So you can look at, I made a really brief demo just to kind of make it a little bit more simple, because when you look at it, it's kind of, there's a bunch of different functions with a whole lots of different parameters that all tie into each other. And it's pretty confusing when you're looking at it the first time. So I tried to make it a little more simple. So if you go to github.com/LeonMagee, LeonMagee, you'll be able to, and then go to repositories and then WP's settings API demo. That's where it is. So I'll just, so I've got one README file here that has some resources. There's a diagram that I made, and there's an official, there's the codex for it, and then there's a really long WP Touch tutorial. This is like 8 different sections of tutorial. I've only gone through a little bit of it, and then something about regular expressions I was going to also go into about this. So, okay, so if you're in your dashboard here, and you go to the settings, you'll see it goes settings and then general here. Scroll down to the bottom. I just added this where it says settings, section title, section callback header, phone number, email address. Basically, this is being added by the code that I added. So if you're, assume you guys are at my GitHub repo, this is the code to do that. So there's 3 main functions that tie this together: register setting, add settings section, add settings field. And basically you wrap all those inside one function, and then you link it to the admin init. So add action, admin init is the action hook, and then the name of the function links to that. In this case, general is going to be the fact that this is in the general settings. You would use a different name if you want to put it in one of the other setting sections. And in this case, I'm just adding to an existing menu page. Things are a little bit different if you've created a custom menu and then you're adding it. It's still pretty easy to do, but there's just a few extra steps. So I'm just going to talk about the most simple application, which is just adding it to an existing menu. So basically, I guess let me show the diagram that I made here that makes it easier. So this is just basically an Illustrator file that I made this image out of, and all the color coding is just showing where things need to be the same. So I mean, some of it's really simple, where it's just the name of the function that's being put into the admin hook. But in here, this is I did this because I found it kind of confusing to match up register setting and add settings section and add settings field. And especially when you're adding this to a custom menu page, it gets a little bit tricky. So I basically just made this color coded where you can see which parts of it need to be the same. So let me just the actual function I did. So you register the setting. General tells you that it's going to be going to that general settings page. Now, now these two parts are pretty cool. So that the input name array here. Now, if I was doing just one field, this is just the name of the input. Like within the HTML, you're going to have input, and then you're going to have the name of it. That's going to match that name of the input field. But what you can do, which is really cool, is you can have that be an array instead of just a single thing. So I've looked at a lot of tutorials online to do this, and the way that people typically do it is they'll have a register setting for each individual setting field that's added. So in this case, I have one register setting, one add setting section, and I have two different add settings fields for the two different fields I created. I created a phone number field and an email field. Most of the tutorials online will have, you'll register a setting, it'll be like input phone number, input email. So you'll have register a setting for each individual input field. But you don't have to do that. You can register one, and then you'll be able to use that as an array to store all your settings that you save. So then the settings section is just kind of a way to group it together. Where it says section ID, this is also repeated in the add settings field. The add settings field function is what's adding the individual fields that you're going to see. So now that we come to so basically phone callback, email callback are names of functions that are actually going to output the HTML for the input field. So when you come down here, you're going to see I'm actually echoing out the form field. And you can see the input name array, which I registered in the register setting up here. I'm repeating here, but I'm treating it, even though this is just HTML here, I'm treating it as an array. I'm passing it phone as the array key. And then here, in order to actually find out what the current value of it, I just get the option of input name array, which is what I registered. But this is actually going to return an array with key pair values. So then value equals array phone. So I get the actual the phone value rather than the whole thing, and then that's what I pass into the value. So that's how you do the callbacks to actually output the inputs. And then the other really cool thing is that the validation function. This is like the most interesting part of it. So here's so the validation function takes input, and this you can use a validation method known as whitelisting here, where you just check to make sure that only the values that you want are being put into it, and then you return like another array that only has the stuff that you want. So the validation function takes input, which is everything that the user submits into the form, and then I'm going to create a new array called valid. I'm going to get all the old values here, and then I'm going to. This is kind of the fun part. I'm going to create a new. The valid's a new array, and then I'm adding the phone key to valid, and then I'm going to make this equal to preg replace, matching only numbers and dashes, and then the input. So basically, this is going to strip out anything that's not a number or a dash, assuming that's the format that I want my phone number to be in. And then it's going to do a check to see if the original input is the same as the one that I've preg replaced. And if it's not, then it's going to add settings error here. And this will output this as an error. And then it'll grab the old setting. So if I try to enter something that's not a phone number, it's going to give me the error, and it's also going to throw the old phone number back into it because it just grabs the old value. And then here's the same thing for the email. So another cool thing, like notice I'm wrapping this whole validation function into one big function. So here I'm just making sure